heard my husband say he hated being married to me. I acted normal, then disappeared. We were 3 years married, and I still felt like we were in the good phase. The laughing in grocery aisles phase. The kiss on the shoulder while you're doing dishes phase. The smid, he still texts me, I miss you even though we live together phase. So when my girls' trip hit day 3 and I started missing him more than I missed the wine tastings and late night snacks, I decided, impulsively, romantically, to come home early. My friends raised their eyebrows, but smiled. You're that kind of wife, huh? Damn, 3 years in and she's still simpin'. He's gonna lose his mind when he sees you. And honestly, I hoped he would. I hoped he'd light up, say something dumb like, what did I do to deserve this? And we'd order food, watch reruns, maybe fall asleep with my head on his chest and my legs tangled in his. So I picked up his favorite takeout, Thai, extra peanut sauce, and hit the road. 3 hours of driving, thinking, smiling, thinking how good we were, how proud I was of us. I hadn't told him I was coming. That was the whole point. A little surprise for the man I loved. I wore the dress he liked, the sundress I almost packed but left behind because I thought, he loves this one too much to not see it on me in person. I even did my makeup in the car mirror during a gas stop. It was silly, maybe, but I wanted to come home looking like his. The version of me that still tried, still showed up, still believed in the fairy tale ending. I didn't know what I was driving into. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked normal. Lights off, car in the garage, nothing weird. I left the food in the passenger seat for a moment and just sat there, smiling. I thought about how I'd walk in, say surprise, and throw my arms around him. Instead, I opened the door gently, didn't want to scare him. Keys in hand, slow turn in the lock. I stepped inside quietly. The living room was dim. Then I heard his voice, in the kitchen. Loud. Phone on speaker. Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. I stopped. Not just walking, breathing. I wake up every day regretting my decision. Each word landed like glass shattering under my ribs. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. And that's when I realized I was the ghost in our own house. I stood in the hallway, frozen, holding a bag of lukewarm Thai food, listening to the man I thought adored me unravel our marriage like it was nothing. His voice echoed off the kitchen tiles like a confession meant for anyone but me. She's sweet, yeah, but it's exhausting pretending this is what I want. Her family's loaded. I mean, if we ever divorced, I'd lose access to all of that. And you know how her dad basically got me my job? It's just complicated. Complicated. That's what I was to him now. A situation he had to navigate. Not a woman he once held while crying from laughing too hard in bed at 2 a.m. Not the girl he promised to grow old with. Not the wife who kept our house running, remembered birthdays, bought his mother flowers, even when she forgot mine. Just a paycheck with a pretty face and a last name that opened doors. My fingers were numb, but I didn't drop the bag. I backed out the door as silently as I came in, shut it behind me, and got back into my car like I was retracing a mistake. I sat there for 10 minutes, no tears, no rage, just static. Like something cracked deep in my chest, but my brain hadn't caught up yet. I remember staring at the steering wheel and thinking, don't forget to breathe, just keep breathing. Eventually, I did what I knew I had to do. I circled the block 3 times to kill time. I reapplied my lipstick, rehearsed a smile in the rearview mirror until it didn't look terrifying. Then I pulled into the driveway again, at exactly the time I told him I'd be home. When I walked in, he looked up from the couch like a man surprised by love, not like one who'd just confessed less than an hour ago that he regretted marrying me. Hey, I thought you weren't back till tomorrow. I smiled, walked over, kissed him, handed him his food, and sat down next to him like everything in my world hadn't just detonated. I let him tell me about his day, let him wrap his arm around me, let him fall asleep that night with his head against my shoulder like we were fine. I didn't confront him, not that night, not the next day, because I had bigger plans. You see, when someone tells you they regret loving you, don't give them a fight, give them a plot twist. The next morning, he made me coffee. That used to mean something. Now it felt like a cheap peace offering from someone who thought he still had me fooled. You seemed tired last night, he said. Guess the trip wore you out. I smiled and nodded. took a sip, told him it was perfect. What I didn't say was, actually, I was tired from pretending not to hear you admit that loving me is your greatest regret. But no, I stayed quiet, polite, sweet, because while he thought everything was fine, I was already building my escape. It started small. I made a copy of our marriage certificate, pulled our financial statements, checked the passwords I knew he never bothered to change. The shared cloud storage, his emails, the secret Venmo account he used for weekends out. And what I found? Proof he wasn't just emotionally gone. He'd been lying in more ways than one. Late-night work drinks with a client were actually $200 tabs at lounges I'd never heard of, always listed as split payments between him and a contact saved as BC. But guess what? BC was not a business partner. She was a bartender with a curated Instagram feed and a shared history of private transactions with my husband, complete with heart emojis and champagne toasts. Still, I said nothing, because saying nothing was power now. I made copies of everything, quietly, transferred our joint savings into a new account under my name only, legally protected, since the bulk of that money came from my trust, gifted by my family before we married. I even hired a lawyer, just to be safe, all while packing a little more each day. Clothes, jewelry, family heirlooms, all under the guise of spring cleaning. He never noticed. Because that's the thing about people like him, they only see the damage once it's already done. We had dinner every night that week, laughed over takeout, watched old shows. He even kissed my forehead and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." And I smiled like I believed him. 5 days after I came home early, the day after I finished moving the last of my valuables to a storage unit across town, I woke up at 4 a.m., packed the final suitcase, and left. Left the keys on the counter, left the wedding band in the freezer, left a note that said, "You don't have to regret your marriage anymore. I've undone it for you." At 7:18 a.m., my phone buzzed for the first time. Him. I ignored it. By 7:32, there were 6 missed calls. By 8, it was 27. Each one angrier than the last. Missed calls, voicemails, texts that started out confused and quickly spiraled into full-blown panic. "Where are you? I just woke up and the house is empty. Your ring was in the freezer? Is this a joke?" And then the switch flipped. "You took the money? Is this about something I said? Babe, let's talk. You're being crazy. This isn't fair." There it was. Gaslighting on cue. Because in his head, I was the one being unreasonable. Not the man who told his friend that marrying me was a nightmare, and that he only stuck around for my family's money. Not the man who cheated. Not the man who lied to my face while kissing me goodnight. No, I was the villain now because I heard him, believed him, and walked away before he could rewrite history. At 9:05 a.m., I got a message that almost made me laugh. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it." Fix what exactly? The part where he resented me? The part where he used my trust fund like it was Monopoly money? Or the part where he let me believe I was loved when I was just leverage? No, there was nothing left to fix. At 9:37 a.m., my lawyer called to confirm the emergency prenup clause had been activated. Thanks to a few carefully worded provisions and some legal advice from my father, whose money he was so happy to benefit from, anything purchased using funds from my trust was now locked down, including the house, the car, and the lake property he never stopped bragging about. Everything else? He could keep the flat-screen TV and the espresso machine, maybe even the cheap whiskey he hid under the sink. But the life he had with me, that was gone, and he knew it. By 10:15 a.m., the calls stopped. I imagine he was finally sitting in that empty kitchen, staring at the freezer like it could explain something. The band was still cold. So was the truth. I heard you. I believed you. And now, you can regret me all you want, from a distance. By noon, the silence broke, but not from him. It was his mother. Of course it was. "Sweetheart, what's going on? He's heartbroken. He said you just left without a word." The spin had already started. He was heartbroken. I had just left. No mention of the recorded call, the cheating, the lies. Just poor, confused him, abandoned by his unstable wife. He said you emptied your joint account. "That's theft, honey. I just don't want you doing something you'll regret." I don't know if she thought I was stupid or if she truly believed he was innocent. But I kept my tone calm and sweet. "Thanks for the concern, but everything was done through my lawyer, fully legal, fully documented. If he has any questions, he knows where to find me, or more accurately, my attorney. Click. I wasn't going to be baited into an emotional argument by the same woman who once warned me not to emasculate her son by out-earning him. And oh, she tried. For the next week, I got calls from everyone on his side. Friends, cousins, even his old college roommate who once drunkenly hit on me at Christmas. Each one echoing the same refrain, "Come on, it couldn't have been that bad." Every couple has issues. You're really going to throw away a marriage over a few mistakes? But none of them had heard what I heard. None of them had seen the Venmo payments, the bar tabs, the matching late-night timestamps. None of them had heard their husband say he only stayed married because of a trust fund. I wanted to scream at all of them. Instead, I did something better. I emailed one recording, just one. That call I heard when I walked in. I had security cameras in the hallway. One of them caught the audio clear as day. Just a 30-second clip of him saying, "If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already." I sent it to his mother, BCC'd a few others for fun. Then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to a spa. By the time I got out of my massage, crickets, no more calls, no more texts, just one message from an unknown number that said, "Guess we didn't know him like we thought." I lit a candle, jasmine and white tea, calming, clean, like the kind of peace I used to beg for. Then I sat down at my desk. Pen, paper, silence. I didn't write to him. He didn't deserve the ink. I wrote to her, the girl who almost stayed. The version of me that nearly forgave everything for the sake of a love that wasn't even real. Dear you, I know you wanted to believe the best in him. I know you played the, "but he's not always like this" game in your head so many times that it started to sound like truth. I know you thought that walking away would mean you failed. That loving harder might be the fix. That maybe if you cooked more, cried less, fought cleaner, apologized sooner, he'd be the man he promised to be. But he wasn't. He didn't forget to love you. He chose not to. And you chose to survive. I folded the letter and tucked it into the back of my journal. Not for nostalgia, not for mourning, just as proof that I saw myself clearly again, that I wasn't the crazy wife or the spoiled girl with the trust fund. I was the damn backbone of that relationship, and I walked away the second I realized I deserved more. A week passed. He never reached out again directly. Maybe because his lawyer had finally explained the prenup. Maybe because his friends stopped returning his calls. Maybe because the image of me walking out without screaming, without crying, just with purpose, scared the hell out of him. Good. Let it. Let him wonder how I knew. Let him sit in that house, in that silence, with a ring in the freezer and no one to blame. Let him feel small for once. Because I sure as hell did for 3 years. I booked a flight that night to Greece. Just me. My new journal. And the sunrise I'd never seen over the Aegean Sea. My hotel was modest, but the view was rich with possibility. I sat by the balcony that first morning with coffee and thought, this is what a life without him feels like. Light, quiet, mine. It was day 4 in Greece. I had already fallen in love, not with a man, but with mornings, with waking up without fear of what version of my husband I'd get that day, with drinking black coffee that tasted like quiet instead of caffeine-fueled survival. I hadn't spoken to anyone beyond room service and the cab driver who asked if I was running from someone. I'd laughed at that. No, I said, I'm running back to myself. Then, at a little market near the water, I met her. She was American, too. Maybe mid-60s, sun-streaked hair, wearing a faded Bob Dylan shirt and leather sandals that looked older than me. We were both reaching for the same jar of olives, and somehow we just started talking. Her name was May. She asked if I lived here. I said no. She asked if I was honeymooning. I almost choked. Actually, I said, I'm coming off a divorce. Kind of a messy one. She gave me this look. Not pity, not curiosity, just recognition. Was he charming, selfish, and the kind of man who could cry on cue but never apologize? She asked casually. I blinked. Yes. She laughed, handed me the olives, and said, then congratulations, you just saved yourself a decade. We sat on a bench outside eating soft bread and sea salt olives with our fingers. She told me her story. A husband who'd stolen years from her, too. Who made her feel like every boundary was a betrayal and every gut feeling was emotional overreaction. She said she didn't leave until she was 42. I kept waiting for it to feel like the right time, she said. But no one tells you the right time is usually 10 minutes after you already know. That one sentence? It cracked something open in me, because I had known. From the moment I heard his voice on that call, from the second he said my name like it was an inconvenience, from the night he kissed me with a lie still on his tongue, I had known, and I finally listened. Before we parted ways, May turned to me and said, "Here's your permission in case you're still waiting for it. You don't have to forgive him to be free." Then she smiled and walked into the sun like some kind of time-traveling oracle. And I just sat there, letting the breeze hit my face, letting the idea settle. I didn't need closure, I just needed space, and a future that didn't include explaining myself to people who chose to betray me. I came home tan, quiet, and unrecognizable, even to myself. Not because I changed who I was, but because I finally stopped apologizing for being her. The girl who gave everything, the woman who asked for very little, the wife who smiled through dinners with in-laws who called her spoiled, who carried the weight of two people so he could play the part of a husband without doing the work. I unpacked slowly, took a long bath, lit the same jasmine and white tea candle I had written that letter beside, the letter to the version of me that almost stayed. Then I did one last thing. He had posted something online while I was gone. Of course he did. A vague, melodramatic caption under a black and white photo of our wedding day. Sometimes love just isn't enough. The comments flooded in. You'll find your way back to each other. She'll realize what she lost, praying for healing between you two. And for the first time, I felt nothing but calm. Because love is enough. Love for myself was enough to walk away. Love for truth was enough to protect my peace. Love for the woman I am becoming was enough to never go back. So I posted one reply directly under his caption. I came home early. I heard everything. I believed you then. I just hope you believe me now. I'm never coming back. I didn't block him. I didn't delete the past. I just let my story stand, unshaken in public, a monument to the moment I finally realized I don't need closure. I need distance. Months later, I legally dropped his last name, went back to mine. Not my maiden name, but my own. Something I chose, something strong, something unconnected to anyone who ever lied about love. My lawyer finalized the split with precision. His lawyer sent a letter requesting to revisit the terms of property division. I declined. Not out of spite, but because we don't renegotiate with people who show us who they are and think we'll stay. Now I walk lighter. I still cry sometimes, not because I miss him, but because I almost gave him the rest of my life. I drink coffee slow. I kiss my own shoulders in the mirror when I wear that sundress. I make dinner for one and light a damn candle because I deserve romance, even if it starts with me, especially if it starts with me. This isn't a revenge story, it's a rebirth story. And it ends like this. I came home early, I heard the truth, I walked away, and I never looked back. Share in the comments. What would you do if you heard those words from someone you loved? Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more powerful emotional stories, quiet revenge, and real-life tales of strength you won't forget. Take care and see you in the next video.